Hello guys, welcome back to Hollywood Recapped. Today I will explain you a movie named Tale of Tales, released in the year 2015. This movie is divided into three narratives. The first narrative centers around the king and queen of a kingdom named Long Trellis. At first it looks as if the royal couple is living a happy life. But later we come to know that the queen is suffering from a rare illness, which will never allow her to become a mother. Because of this the queen is always upset. Seeing his wife in such state, the king summons the best doctors and physicians from all around the realm. But none of them are able to diagnose the mysterious illness within her. Despite of this, the king tries his best to cheer up his queen. One day the king invites some circus artists to the palace, and suddenly the queen notices that one of the performer is expecting a baby. As a result, she becomes envious and starts smashing things after entering her room. When the king finds out about this, he goes to her room and vows to go to any extent to solve her problem. Later that night, a strange necromancer arrives at the castle and claims that he can solve the queen's pregnancy problem. Hearing to this, the king reminds him that many people have tried in the past and failed. However, the necromancer is confident that the queen can bear a baby. But it depends on to what extent the king is willing to go for his queen. The king responds that till the last extent. The necromancer then reveals that he has years of experience and he knows a lot about nature. Adding, he says that nature must always be in balance and that, if the king desires a life, he must also sacrifice one. Despite of his weird claims, the king and queen give him their full support. And after this, the necromancer starts to describe the process. He says that the king will have to capture a sea monster whose heart will be used to cure the queen's illness. A pure and unmarried woman will cook and prepare it, and that will be eaten by the queen. In this way, the necromancer assures that the queen will become pregnant. Hearing to this, the king immediately agrees to hunt down the sea monster and starts the preparations. The next day, king sets out on his mission and he finds the creature in a river. When the monster is sleeping, the king goes into the water to attack it. Eventually, he successfully slays the beast but gets critically injured in the struggle. Soon he succumbs to his injuries, but before that he removes the creature's heart. The queen then returns to the castle covering the heart with a cloth. Later, a maid at the castle is found to be unmarried and pure. And as a result, she's given the task of preparing the heart. While cooking, she experiences strange sensations and all of a sudden becomes pregnant. Soon the queen eats the heart and finally she becomes pregnant. In the next scene we see the maid and the queen giving birth to their children at the same time. The boys look to be the same age. The queen's son is named Elias, whereas the maid's son is named Jonah. Then we are shown that time moves fast forwards to 16 years, where the children have now become adults. The queen is living a happy life with her son Elias. And she thinks that she has been given a second chance in life. However, the two boys, who were born on the same day and look identical, are not normal children, as the sea monster is represented by the white tone of their hair. They have a strong friendship bonding and are extremely close to each other. The queen, on the other hand, doesn't like their friendship. She tells her son that as a prince, he is not permitted to be friend with the maid's son, Jonah. Despite of this, Elias ignores his mother and continues to meet Jonah. Later we get to learn that the boys have the capacity to breathe underwater in a unique way. Next we see, the queen threatens her maid that if she doesn't prevent her son from meeting Elias, then she and her son will be expelled from the country. Nonetheless, the two boys seem unconcerned and meet on a regular basis. One day, they cross the line when Jonah wears Elias's clothing and goes to the queen. When she discovers the truth, then only she chooses to exile Jonah from the kingdom. Elias makes an attempt to stop him, but couldn't. Jonah then cuts off a tree with his knife and a spring of water starts to flow from there. He tells Elias that as long as the water is clean, he should know that he's alive and safe. But if it becomes red, then he should understand that Jonah's life is in jeopardy. After saying that, he walks away. Elias daily checks the water to see if it has turned red. One day the water turns red and he understands that something is wrong with Jonah. In order to find Jonah, he leaves the kingdom without informing his mother. After a long search, Elias finally reaches Jonah's house and he discovers that Jonah has married a young woman. The people there think him as Jonah since they share the same facial features. Then he learns that Jonah had gone to the forest 5 days ago and has not returned home since then. Elias then goes out in search of Jonah. On the other hand, the queen gets more concerned about him. Left with no options, she approaches the necromancer again. But he asks the same thing, that if she wants her kid to return, then she must make a life sacrifice. The queen accepts this proposal. And elsewhere, Jonah is seen injured inside a cave. A flying creature then strikes and tries to kill him. After hearing his scream, Elias locates Jonah and terminates the creature with his sword. However, Elias is unaware of that the creature is none other than his own mother queen. But that's what was an agreement upon a life for life. In the final scene of the first narrative, Elias ascends to the throne of the kingdom and the story ends. After this, we are shown the second narrative. The king and the two elderly ladies Emma and Dora, who are the focus of this story. The king is an extremely lustful man who is constantly surrounded by females. He drinks heavily all the time and is yet to find his queen. He possesses the influence and fortune to marry anyone he pleases. Later we're introduced to two old-aged sisters who reside near the palace. One of them is named Dora and the other is Emma. Dora is a shrewd and selfish woman, whereas Emma is straightforward. They hardly leave their house and are also unmarried. It's much certain that they will have to die there alone. Their voices sound incredibly pleasant and young. One morning, the king hears Dora singing and he instantly gets smitten by her voice. And so, he decides to meet her. Soon the king approaches their door to get a view of the woman in his mind. He thinks that Dora is young and beautiful woman. When he knocks on the door, the sisters start panicking as they believe that the king will get angry if he finds out about their old appearance. After thinking for a while, they both finally make a plan and Dora requests the king to come back after a week so that she will be more comfortable. Next we see, the sisters strive very hard to make their fingers look young and beautiful. Dora covers her fingers with herbs, but it still looks like those of an old person. On the other hand, Emma had put her finger in her mouth for many days. As a result it looks quite good and young. Now a week has passed and it is the day for the king's visit. When the king arrives there then Dora shows Emma's finger instead of her. And now the king is not able to hold his emotions and believes that he has found the love of his life. But the sisters become more worried because if the king finds out about their truth then he will terminate them. After a lot of thinking, Dora proposes a condition that she will sleep with the king only if there is total darkness and so the king agrees. Next we see that Emma starts tightening Dora's body with glue so it may feel like a young girl's body. At midnight one of the guards from the palace comes to pick Dora up. Well, there's darkness in the palace. The king plays intimate game with Dora. But in the morning, he is stunned that he actually spent the night with an old and ugly woman. Enraged king orders his guards to throw Dora out of the window. But luckily she survives the fall. In the woods, Dora witnesses magic as a witch arrives there and finds her. She changes Dora into a charming lady with long hair by using her powers. The following day, the king goes to the jungle for hunting and falls in love with young Dora at first sight. He brings her to his castle and decides to make her the queen. Dora doesn't know how she turned into a young girl. She remembers her sister, Emma. And she invites Emma to her wedding, who still can't believe about her new appearance. When Emma inquires about how she became young Dora, then sarcastically, she replies by peeling off her old skin. And Emma thinks it to be true and visits an ironsmith to peel her old skin off in exchange for a necklace. The ironsmith appears to be more stupid than Emma and he takes her to the jungle, ties her against a tree and peels off her skin. Next we see that Emma returns to the castle in a fragile state and she dies over there. Elsewhere, the magic that turned Dora into a young girl couldn't last long and she starts to appear old as her skin begins to fold. When she realizes that she's turning old, then she runs away from the castle. The story ends on a sad note as Dora is transformed into her older self completely. After this we're shown the third story. This is also about a king. A king is of a weird nature as his queen passed away long ago. He has a young and unmarried daughter named Violet, to whom he has never truly loved. One day the king sees a parasite insect on his hand that is sucking his blood. Instead of swatting it away, the strange king just lets it feed on his blood. Later, he keeps the parasite in a glass box and allows it to feed on his blood every day. As the time passes, the insect becomes huge. On the other hand, Violet now has grown to be a beautiful young woman and always dreams of a prince. The irresponsible king does not care about her because he is always busy with his insect pet. Unfortunately, one day the insect becomes ill and dies. This devastates the king. So he removes its skin off and says to his daughter that now, the time has come to find a husband for you. He says that he's going to arrange a competition and the one who wins it will marry her. On hearing this, Violet becomes happy but also a little upset as she wanted to find a husband of her choice. Despite this, she agrees to the king's decision. And the announcement about the competition is made throughout the kingdom. The king displays the insect skin in his palace and he announces that whoever guesses the name of the insect will win. Many people try but no one can answer correctly because insects never grown that big and old. Just then a weird-looking ogre appears in the palace. He too wants to participate in the competition and the king hesitantly allows him. The ogre smells the skin and guesses the correct answer. After hearing this, a devastated Violet runs away to the roof and attempts to kill herself. But the king calms her down by saying that he cannot break his promise. He is left with no other choice. Violet finally agrees. Next, the ogre takes Violet far in the mountains, where she cries for many days. One day when he goes out for hunting, she sees another woman on a nearby mountain. She begs her for help and explains the whole scenario. The lady also sympathizes with her and promises her to come for help. The following day, the lady along with her family arrives there to rescue Violet while they're crossing over. The ogre arrives there. And they successfully cut the rope and he falls down. Later, sometimes the ogre finds the family and kills them, one by one. Then he chases Violet into a cave and starts to hug her. Violet too pretends to care. But the moment he is distracted, she kills him off with a knife. Then we see, Violet returns to the palace with the ogre's chopped head and places it next to everyone. She then says that this is the husband you chose and she starts crying. The king is also devastated by this and falls to his knees. In the last scene Violet becomes the queen of the kingdom. And the movie ends here. I hope you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment down below which movie should I recap next.